A black woman teaching us?
Tyler Davis kicked his chair back. First day. 60 students.
A black clown! Everyone knows she's only here to meet the quota.
Olivia Owens set her bag down.
Good morning. I am Professor Unans.
Tyler stepped forward. Stand beside her. Turn to the class.
No one is to open their books. This is just a cheap janitor.
He looked at her, pointed to the door.
I'm giving you a chance to get out of here right now!
Olivia didn't move, didn't blink.
Class, open to page...
Tyler grabbed her left arm, twisted hard, pulled violently. Her sleeve ripped from shoulder to wrist and fell to the floor. A tattoo stretched across her forearm, the seal of the Central Intelligence Agency. The whole class fell silent. Tyler thought that was her end, unaware that it was his own. Now, before we get to all of that, let me take you back to the beginning. Because what happened in that classroom didn't come out of nowhere. And the woman standing at that lectern, she's not who anyone at Wentworth University thought she was. Olivia Owens woke up at 5:30 that morning, no alarm. 15 years of waking before sunrise, the habit never left. Her apartment was small, clean, one bedroom near campus. Bookshelves lined every wall, history, political theory, a few novels she never had time to finish. No luxury, no flash, just a woman who lived simply and kept to herself. On a shelf behind a stack of books, there was one framed photo. Younger Olivia, tactical vest, rifle across her chest. 5 people standing beside her, every face blurred except hers. She never showed it to anyone. She never threw it away either. She stood in front of the bathroom mirror and buttoned her blouse. Long sleeves. She adjusted the left cuff, then adjusted it again. Pulled it tight against her wrist. Checked the mirror one more time. This wasn't vanity. This was a ritual. Every morning, every day, for years. She was covering something she never wanted anyone to see. She took a breath, looked at herself. Different kind of mission. Her phone buzzed on the counter. A text from an unsaved number. "Good luck today, Ghost. They're lucky to have you." She smiled, barely, and deleted it. Wentworth University was the kind of school that put the word tradition on every building and meant it as a warning. Red brick. Ivy crawling up 100-year-old walls. Iron gates. A campus built in 1886 that looked like it hadn't changed its mind about anything since. The students were mostly white, mostly wealthy. The kind of families that donated buildings and expected their names carved into the stone. Average tuition, $62,000 a year. Average opinion on change, not interested. But 3 years ago, a federal review flagged something the university couldn't ignore. Over the past decade, 80% of Black and Latino professors left Wentworth within 3 years. Not retired, not transferred, left, quietly, without explanation. The school launched a diversity initiative. New hires, new language, new brochures, same old hallways. Olivia was one of those new hires. She pulled her modest sedan into the faculty lot, parked between a BMW and a Mercedes, grabbed her bag, walked toward the Arts and Sciences building with the kind of posture that doesn't come from a classroom. It comes from places where posture keeps you alive. She didn't know it yet, but the man waiting inside that building had already decided she wouldn't last the week. Brad Anderson, Associate Dean, 25 years at Wentworth. The kind of man who smiled at you in meetings and buried you in paperwork after. He controlled everything for untenured faculty, course assignments, office space, teaching evaluations, tenure recommendations. If you were new and he didn't want you there, your career died slowly and quietly. When the provost overruled him and hired Olivia directly, Brad took it as a personal insult. A black woman, hired without his approval, given a position he believed he should have filled with someone else. So he started before she even arrived. Her office, a windowless storage closet at the end of the hall, no desk lamp, one broken chair, a sticky note on the wall that read, "Good luck," and nobody was sure if that was encouragement or a warning. Her schedule, 3 back-to-back lectures on day 1, all in the largest lecture hall, all sections loaded with Tyler Davis and his fraternity crew. No other new professor had ever been given that load on their first day. Elena Ruiz, an assistant professor in the English department, found Olivia standing in the closet office, staring at the broken chair. "Don't take it personally," Elena said. "He did the same thing to the last one." "The last one?" Dr. Gregory Lawson, black professor, constitutional law. Brad buried him in 2 semesters. Bad evaluations, impossible schedules. Gregory left academia completely. He sells insurance now. Olivia set her bag on the broken chair, said nothing for a long time. Then, "Where's my first class?" Room 214, the largest lecture hall in arts and sciences. Tiered seating rising from the front like a small arena. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. The smell of dry erase markers and old carpet. Olivia walked in at 9 o'clock sharp. 63 students already seated, most already staring. She set her bag on the lectern, pulled out 40 printed syllabi, stapled by hand the night before, paid for out of her own pocket. The department hadn't given her a single sheet of paper, no welcome kit, no printer code. Another quiet act of sabotage from Brad Anderson. "Good morning, everyone. I'm Professor Owens, American History, fall semester. I hold a PhD from Georgetown and have 15 years of federal service. I'm glad to be here. Let's get started." A few students nodded, some opened notebooks. A girl in the second row offered a small smile. Most sat quiet, watching, deciding. And then there was Tyler Davis. Back row, dead center. Legs spread wide, feet propped on the seat in front of him. Arms stretched across the empty chairs on either side. Like a man on a throne, built from his own arrogance. To his right, Cody Moore, phone already out, camera aimed at the lectern. 2 fraternity brothers to his left. Not one of them had a notebook. Not one planned to learn anything today. Tyler waited, let a few seconds pass. He wanted the room completely quiet first. He wanted every single ear in the hall turned his way before he opened his mouth. Then he spoke. Loud, clear, projected across the hall like a stone thrown into still water. "So, this is the diversity hire my uncle warned us about." He didn't whisper. He didn't mumble. He threw it across the room and let it land on every row. His fraternity brothers burst out laughing. The sound bounced off the walls. The rest of the hall went rigid. 60 people making the same silent calculation. Do I speak up? Do I stand up for this woman? They looked down, every single one of them. Olivia didn't pause. She picked up the marker and began writing on the board. The Constitutional Convention, 1787. Today we start with the foundation, how a room full of men spent months arguing about who counts as a person and who doesn't. Tyler leaned forward. "Yo, does she even have a real degree? Or did they hand her one so the brochure looks better?" Cody grinned behind his screen. A boy near the window closed his eyes like he wanted to disappear. Olivia kept writing. Hand steady, back straight. "Mr. Davis, I'd welcome your thoughts during office hours. Right now, page 12. Tyler kicked the seat in front of him. The student flinched hard. I'm not calling you professor. You haven't earned that. You're a costume pretending to be something you're not. Nobody spoke. The clock ticked. Once, twice, 3 times. Not one person told Tyler to stop. Olivia turned from the board, looked at him for 2 full seconds, the way you look at rain through a window, then returned to her lecture as if he were wind, something you feel but choose not to answer. That silence from her should have been a warning. It wasn't. 20 minutes in, Olivia turned to the board again, back to the class, marker squeaking softly. Tyler nudged Cody. Cody passed him a full water bottle from under his seat. Tyler unscrewed the cap, stood up, casual, slow, like he was stretching his legs. He walked down the steps toward the front. A few students glanced up. Most thought nothing of it. Tyler passed behind the lectern and stumbled, deliberately. The entire bottle erupted across Olivia's back and shoulders. Cold, sudden, shocking. It soaked through her blouse in an instant. Water ran down her neck, her spine, dripped from her hair onto the tile floor. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Tyler stepped back, hands raised, face arranged into practiced innocence. "Oh, my bad. Didn't see you there. Guess you kind of blend into the board." The racial undertone hit like a blade. A girl in the 3rd row covered her mouth. A boy gripped his desk until his knuckles went white. But nobody spoke. Not one person. Olivia turned around, slowly, water dripping from her hair, blouse clinging to her back. She looked at Tyler for 3 full seconds. 3 seconds of perfect, suffocating silence. "Are you finished?" 2 words. Not angry, not shaking, just still, like a lake after a stone drops into it. Ripples spread, but the water itself doesn't move. Tyler grinned, tossed the empty bottle at her feet, walked back to his seat like a king returning to his throne. Cody gave him a fist bump. Olivia reached into her bag. Paper towel. She dried her face, her hands, the back of her neck, set the towel on the lectern, picked up the marker. As I was saying, the 3/5 compromise. Let's talk about who gets counted. She kept teaching. Wet blouse under fluorescent light. Voice never cracked, never asked for help, never raised her voice. And that made it worse. Everyone knew what happened, and not one person lifted a finger. 30 minutes later, Olivia distributed the syllabi, a neat stack at the end of each row. When the stack reached Tyler, he picked up the entire pile, all 40 copies, held them in one hand, looked Olivia in the eye, and dropped them off the edge of the tiered seating. 40 pages scattering across 3 rows, fluttering to the floor like dead leaves in November. The soft sound of paper hitting tile, gentle, almost delicate, was the loudest thing in the room. "Oops, guess your little homework fell." Cody filmed. The fraternity brothers bit their lips. The rest of the hall sat frozen. Olivia didn't ask anyone to help, didn't tell Tyler to pick them up. She walked down the steps, got on her knees, and started picking up every page herself, one by one, on her hands and knees, on cold tile, in front of 63 silent students. Nobody helped. Nobody stood. Nobody said a word. 63 people sat in cushioned seats and watched a professor, a woman with a doctorate from Georgetown and 15 years of government service, crawl across a floor, picking up papers a 21-year-old had thrown to humiliate her. She stood up slowly, straightened the stack carefully with both hands, walked back up the steps, placed them on the row without a word. "Page 12, everyone." Her voice sounded exactly the same as the first minute of class. That, more than the water, more than the insults, was the most painful part. 3 rows back, Sophie Williams slid her phone from under her notebook, pressed record. Her hands were trembling. Class ended at 10:15. Students filed out quickly, silently. Nobody looked at Olivia. Nobody looked at Tyler. They moved the way people move after witnessing something terrible they chose not to stop. Fast, eyes ahead, mouths shut. Olivia sat alone at the lectern, wet blouse, crumpled syllabi, an empty hall that smelled like tap water and shame. 11 minutes later, a knock on her closet office door. It didn't wait for an answer. Brad Anderson pushed the door open. His eyes traveled to her wet blouse, the water stain on her collar, then her face. He smiled. Rough first class? A student poured water on me. I'd like to file a formal incident report. Brad leaned against the doorframe, arms folded. The posture of a man who had stood in this spot many times before, and always won. Poured water? Come on, students spill things. Don't blow this out of proportion. These kids come from families that donate millions to this school. You really want to make powerful enemies on your first day? I'm not making enemies. I'm reporting what happened. Brad's smile stayed, but his voice dropped. Slow, steady, the kind of quiet that fills a room more than any shout. Let me give you some advice, free of charge. The last person in this office, Dr. Gregory Lawson, black man, smart man, constitutional law. He also thought he'd come in here and change the system. Filed complaints, made noise, even talked to a reporter. He paused. Let the silence fill the windowless room. Know where he is now? Selling insurance out of a strip mall in Connecticut. Couldn't get hired at a single university after he left. Not one. Not community college, not high school, nothing. He straightened up and looked at her. Think carefully about that before you file anything. He tapped the doorframe twice, like a judge bringing down a gavel, and walked away. Didn't close the door. Olivia sat in the broken chair, alone. The fluorescent tube above her buzzed, flickered once, twice, then went completely dark. She sat in the blackness for a long time, not moving, not speaking. The only sound was water dripping from her hair onto the cold concrete floor. The afternoon lectures started at 1 o'clock. Same hall, same tiered seats, same fluorescent buzz overhead. Olivia walked in carrying her laptop and fresh notes. Her blouse had dried in stiff patches from the water Tyler poured on her 3 hours earlier. She had not gone home to change. Brad Anderson's schedule did not leave a single gap. The hall was full. Tyler Davis was already in position. Back row, same seat, same throne. Cody Moore beside him, phone in hand. 2 fraternity brothers on the other side, already grinning. Tyler had switched into this section too. Both of Olivia's classes on the same day. That was not an accident. That was strategy. Olivia set her laptop on the desk and pulled out the professor's chair to sit while she got set up. The moment she sat down, the chair collapsed. Both front legs buckled inward, snapping like dry branches. The seat dropped out from under her. Olivia hit the ground hard. Her back slammed against the cold tile. Her laptop slid off the desk and crashed screen first onto the floor beside her. The sound of cracking plastic echoed through the hall. Tyler's corner exploded with laughter. "Whoa, careful there, Professor. Guess even the furniture does not want you here." His fraternity brothers howled. Cody had his phone up before Olivia even hit the ground. The rest of the room sat paralyzed. some in shock, some too scared to do anything at all. Olivia lay on the cold tile for 2 full seconds, fluorescent light buzzing above her. The ceiling stared down at her like it had seen this before. Then she got up, slowly, brushed the dust off her blouse, checked her laptop. The screen was cracked straight down the middle, a spiderweb of shattered glass. She set it aside without a word. She looked at the collapsed chair. Both front legs had been sawed halfway through. Clean cuts, deliberate, premeditated. Someone had come into this room before the afternoon session and rigged that chair to collapse. She did not report it. She did not ask for a new chair. She stood behind the lectern and taught the entire 2-hour afternoon session on her feet. No chair, no working laptop, no complaint. Just her voice, a marker, and a whiteboard. A girl in the front row whispered to her neighbor, "This is insane. Why is nobody doing anything?" Nobody had an answer, because nobody was doing anything. As the lecture continued, Tyler grew bolder. He started a slow clap every time Olivia made a point. One loud clap, then another. Cody joined in. Then the fraternity brothers. A slow, mocking rhythm that echoed through the tiered hall like a heartbeat that did not belong. Olivia ignored it, kept teaching. Tyler pulled out his phone and played music at full volume, loud, bass-heavy, with lyrics that degraded women. The sound filled the room and drowned out Olivia's voice. "Mr. Davis, please turn that off." He looked at her and turned it up louder. Olivia raised her voice and continued, steady. Tyler stood up, walked to the front of the room, slowly, deliberately, and leaned against the lectern. His face was inches from hers, close enough that she could smell his cologne, close enough that the room could feel the threat in the air, thick and electric, like the moment before a storm breaks. "You know what, sweetheart? My uncle runs this entire department. He decides who stays and who goes. And you? You are nothing. You are a box they checked on a form, a quota, a charity case they dragged in off the street to make themselves look good." He leaned even closer. "So why don't you save yourself the embarrassment? Walk out that door right now. Nobody will stop you. Nobody will miss you. And by Friday, nobody will even remember your name." Olivia did not step back, did not flinch, did not blink. "Sit down, Mr. Davis. Make me." The air in the room changed. Something was about to break. Every student in the hall could feel it. That sickening electric stillness right before everything goes wrong. Tyler grabbed Olivia's left arm at the shoulder. His fingers twisted into the fabric and locked tight. Then he yanked downward, hard, with the full force of a man who had never been told no in his entire life. The sleeve ripped, not partially, not a small tear at the seam. The entire sleeve split wide open, from shoulder all the way down to wrist, like a curtain being torn from a window. The fabric fell away from her arm in one clean piece and crumpled onto the floor at her feet. And there it was, running down the full length of Olivia's bare forearm, a tattoo. Not decorative, not a flower, not a quote. A series of precise institutional symbols etched into her skin. A stylized eagle, alphanumeric codes, a Latin inscription, Veritas omnia vincit. And at the center, unmistakable and undeniable, the official seal of the Central Intelligence Agency. The lecture hall went dead silent. 63 mouths open. 0 sounds. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, and for the first time all day, that was the only noise in the room. Tyler stared at the tattoo. His smirk vanished. His hand was still frozen in the air, still gripping the torn fabric. But he was in too deep. Too much pride, too much audience, too much ego to back down in front of 60 people who had watched him perform all day long. Tyler clenched his other hand into a fist, drew it back, and swung. Olivia moved, not backward, not away, into him. In one motion, faster than anyone in that room could process, she caught his wrist mid-swing. Her fingers locked around his forearm like a vice. She twisted, controlled, precise, mechanical, redirected his arm behind his back and drove him face first into the surface of the lectern. The wood shuddered under the impact. Tyler's cheek pressed flat against it. His arm was locked behind him at an angle that allowed zero movement. He was not hurt, but he could not move a single inch. The move took less than 2 seconds. It was not learned in a self-defense class. It was not learned on YouTube. It was the kind of movement that comes from 15 years in rooms where hesitation gets people killed. Olivia held him there, calm as morning. "I said sit down, Mr. Davis." She released him. Tyler stumbled backward and collapsed into a seat in the front row. His face was white. His hands were shaking. His chest heaved with panicked breaths. He looked like a man who had just realized he was not the most dangerous person in the room. Cody's phone was still recording, but his hand was trembling so badly the footage would be blurred. Sophie Williams had captured everything, every second, every word, every frame, crystal clear. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The room was a graveyard of silence. The silence in room 214 lasted 45 seconds before it was broken. Brad Anderson burst through the door. He had received a text from Tyler. 2 words. "Come now." He stormed to the front of the room, past the broken chair on the floor, past the torn sleeve on the tile, past 63 frozen students who did not dare to breathe. He saw Olivia's bare arm, the tattoo. Tyler slumped in a front row seat, pale and shaking. And the look on every student's face. The look of people who had just witnessed something they would never forget. Brad did not ask what happened. He did not ask if Olivia was okay. He did not look at the broken chair or the torn sleeve on the floor. He went straight to offense. "Professor Owens, what the hell is going on here? Why is your clothing torn? Did you just assault a student?" He was flipping the entire narrative. Right there, in front of 63 witnesses. Olivia's voice was level. "Your nephew grabbed my arm, ripped my sleeve, and attempted to strike me. I restrained him. I have 63 witnesses and multiple recordings." Brad pointed at Tyler. "Tyler, are you hurt?" Tyler saw his chance. "She attacked me. I barely touched her, and she slammed me into the desk. I want to press charges." Brad turned back to Olivia. His voice was cold and final. "You put your hands on a student. That is grounds for immediate termination. I am calling campus security right now to have you removed from this campus. And I suggest you find yourself a lawyer." Olivia picked up her briefcase, looked at Brad, looked at Tyler, then looked at the 63 students who had watched everything. "I will be back tomorrow. Enjoy your evening." She walked out, steady, unhurried, the same posture she had walked in with that morning, spine straight, chin level, footsteps even on the marble floor. The walk of a woman who had left buildings far more dangerous than this one and never once looked back. Elena Ruiz was waiting in the hallway. She had heard everything through the door. Olivia, what are you going to do? Olivia stopped walking, looked at Elena, and for the first time all day, something shifted behind her eyes. Not anger, not defeat. Something quieter, something colder, something that had been sleeping for a very long time and had just been woken up. I am going to make a phone call. That night, Olivia sat alone in her apartment, lights off, curtains drawn. The only glow in the room came from the cracked screen of her laptop sitting on the kitchen table in front of her. She rolled up both sleeves, slowly. Looked down at the tattoo on her left forearm, the eagle, the codes, the seal. A chapter of her life that she had buried 3 years ago when she walked away from the agency. A chapter she never planned to reopen. She stared at it for a long time. Then she picked up her phone and dialed a number she had not called in 3 years. It is Owens. I need my full service record sent. Unredacted civilian summary. And Jameson, I need you here tomorrow morning, in person. She hung up, opened her laptop, spent the next 4 hours writing a detailed incident report. Every event, every name, every timestamp. 15 years of intelligence training meant her documentation was flawless. The kind of report that leaves no room for interpretation. The next morning, Olivia walked onto campus at 8 o'clock, wearing a short-sleeved shirt. The tattoo on her left forearm was fully visible for the entire world to see. This was not an accident. This was deliberate. Students stopped in their tracks across the quad and stared. Whispers spread like wildfire before she even reached the building. People pulled out their phones. People pointed. People could not look away. Sophie Williams had posted her video overnight. By morning, it had 2 million views. Title: College bully rips professor's sleeve, reveals CIA tattoo in lecture hall. Trending nationally. Tyler's fraternity group chat had also leaked. Screenshots showed him bragging about putting the diversity hire in her place. One message from the night before. Got the chair ready, LOL. She is going to hit the floor so hard. The sabotage was premeditated. Now there was proof. News vans lined the campus entrance. University PR was in full crisis mode. Brad Anderson had already filed paperwork to terminate Olivia for assaulting a student. He called an emergency meeting with Dean Donna Taylor. Walked in confident, smug, certain that by lunch, Olivia would be gone. He was wrong. Dean Taylor's office, 9:15. Brad sat across from the dean, arms folded, legs crossed. He laid out his case. Olivia was violent. Olivia was a liability. She needed to go today. Dean Taylor listened. She had seen the video. She had received calls from the provost and general counsel before Brad even arrived. A knock. Olivia was asked to join. She walked in calmly, short sleeves, tattoo visible, sat down, placed a thick folder on the table. Brad leaned forward. There she is. Your behavior has turned this university into a national embarrassment. I have already filed for your termination. This meeting is just a formality. Olivia said nothing. She did not look at Brad. She looked at the door. Another knock, louder this time. The door opened slowly. A man in a dark suit stepped into the room. Tall, gray hair, a face that looked like it had never smiled at anything that was not classified. He held a badge in his left hand and extended it so that every person in the room could see it clearly. Deputy Director Jameson Cole, Central Intelligence Agency. 2 agents in matching dark suits stood silently in the hallway behind him. The entire room went completely still. The air changed. Brad's smug expression flickered and then disappeared. Cole looked at Brad, then at Dean Taylor. I'm here regarding former officer Olivia Owens. She served the CIA for 15 years in classified counterterrorism operations. She holds the Distinguished Intelligence Medal, one of the highest honors our agency awards. He placed a folder on the table. I would like to understand why a decorated intelligence officer was physically assaulted, had her property destroyed, was subjected to racially motivated harassment, and after defending herself from a man who tried to punch her, was blamed by the administration and targeted for termination. Brad's face drained of color. His arms uncrossed. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Cole continued. The tattoo your nephew exposed is a unit insignia earned by officers who completed one of the most demanding programs in the intelligence community. Fewer than 200 people carry that mark. Professor Owens is one of them. Brad stammered. She still put her hands on a... Cole cut him off. She restrained a man who swung at her face. The video is clear. In our agency, we call that restraint. In criminal law, it is called self-defense. Olivia spoke for the first time. Quiet, steady. You did not ask who I was. You saw a black woman and decided I was a quota hire. The closet office, the impossible schedule, the threats, the termination paperwork, all of it built on that one assumption. And that assumption was wrong. 5 seconds of silence. Dean Taylor stood up, looked directly at Brad. Get out of this room. Now. Do not return to your office. Do not contact any faculty or students. Human Resources will reach you within the hour. Brad stood up from his chair. His legs were unsteady beneath him. He walked out of the room without saying another word. The door closed behind him with a soft click. 25 years of unchecked power ended in 11 seconds. Provost Patricia Hall arrived on campus within the hour. She did not come alone. She brought the general counsel, the director of human resources, and a security officer. She had already reviewed everything. The video, now at 5 million views. Cole's credentials, and Olivia's service summary. The incident report Olivia wrote the night before. The leaked fraternity chat, proving the chair sabotage was premeditated. And Brad's termination filing against Olivia, which now read less like a personnel action and more like retaliation. She spent 12 minutes reviewing the materials. Then she made her decision. Brad Anderson was placed on immediate administrative suspension, effective that moment. His university email was locked. His office was sealed with campus security tape across the door. His keycard was deactivated. His access to every university system was revoked. 2 security officers escorted him to his office to collect his personal belongings. He was given 1 cardboard box and 10 minutes. Brad walked out of the Arts and Sciences building carrying that box at 11:32. His face was gray, his eyes fixed on the pavement. He did not look up once. Students lined the pathway and watched in silence. A few held up phones. Nobody said a word. They watched a man who had controlled their lives for 25 years walk to his car and drive away. He never came back. Tyler Davis was summoned to the Dean of Students' office at noon. No parent conference, no uncle to make a phone call, no safety net made of money and last names. Tyler was 21 years old, a legal adult, and everything he did was on camera. The university filed a formal police report. The charges were serious. Assault and battery against a faculty member, deliberate destruction of university property, including the sabotaged chair and the damaged laptop, premeditated racial harassment, supported by his own words in the leaked group chat. Tyler Davis was expelled from Wentworth University, not suspended, not placed on probation, expelled. His academic record was permanently flagged. His transcript would carry the mark for the rest of his life. His acceptance to law school, which he had received just 3 months earlier, was rescinded within the week. The admissions office cited conduct incompatible with the standards of the legal profession. Tyler's parents hired a lawyer. The lawyer reviewed the video, the group chat screenshots, the witness statements, and the police report. He reportedly told them one sentence: "There is no defense for this. We negotiate." Cody Moore was expelled the same day. The university cited his role in filming, participating in, and distributing harassment content through the fraternity group chat. His footage was entered as evidence in the criminal case. That afternoon, Olivia Owens walked back into room 214. The lecture hall was packed. Not just her students. Students from other departments, other years, other buildings had come to sit in. Every seat was taken. People stood along the walls and sat in the aisles. When Olivia stepped through the door, something happened that no one had planned. One student in the front row stood up, then the girl beside her, then the row behind them, then the next row, and the next, until every single person in that room was standing. No one organized it. No one signaled it. It just happened. 60, 70, maybe 80 people rising to their feet in silence for a woman who had spent an entire day being torn apart and never once lost her composure. Olivia stopped at the lectern. For the first time in 2 days, her composure cracked, just slightly. She blinked, pressed her lips together, took one breath. "Thank you. Sit down. We have work to do." Sophie Williams, now sitting in the front row, raised her hand. "Professor Owens, is it true you worked for the CIA?" Olivia looked at her. A beat of silence. "I served my country for 15 years in ways I cannot fully discuss. What I can tell you is that I chose to leave that career and come here, to this room, to teach, because I believe education is the most powerful thing a person can do." She picked up the marker, turned to the board. "Now, page 42, the 3/5 compromise. Let us talk about who gets counted in this country and who does not." The room was electric, and for the first time since she arrived at Wentworth University, Olivia Owens was teaching a class that actually wanted to listen. The investigation into Brad Anderson did not stop at one bad day. It went back 25 years. The university's Office of Equal Opportunity launched a full and formal review of Brad's entire tenure as Associate Dean. Investigators pulled his emails, going back over a decade. They pulled faculty evaluation records, hiring committee notes, internal memos, HR complaint files that had been quietly closed and buried in storage drawers that nobody had opened in years. What they found was not a single incident. It was a system. Brad Anderson had spent 25 years systematically destroying the careers of every faculty member of color who had the misfortune of being hired into his department. The methods were always the same, always quiet, always deniable. He assigned them the worst course loads. He placed them in windowless offices with broken furniture. He wrote negative teaching evaluations that directly contradicted student reviews. He quietly recommended against tenure in closed-door meetings where no one could challenge him. And when the professors eventually broke under the pressure and left, Brad would shrug and say, they simply were not the right fit. Over 18 years, 11 professors of color left Wentworth University. 8 resigned. 3 had their contracts not renewed based on Brad's recommendations. Not a single one of them was given a fair chance. Dr. Gregory Lawson was one of them. When the story went national, Lawson came forward publicly for the first time. He sat down with a reporter from a major news outlet and spoke on camera about what Brad Anderson had done to him. "That man did not just end my career at Wentworth," Lawson said. His voice broke twice during the interview. He ended my belief that the Academy had room for someone who looks like me. I have a PhD in constitutional law. I published in peer-reviewed journals. My students rated me among the top 10% of faculty in the entire university. And none of it mattered. Not one bit. Brad Anderson decided on my very first day that I did not belong, and he spent the next 2 semesters making sure of it. I sell insurance now, out of a strip mall in Hartford, Connecticut. That is what Brad Anderson did to my life. The story was no longer about one student ripping one professor's sleeve. It was about an institution that had allowed one man to quietly erase people of color from its faculty for nearly 2 decades. Sophie Williams's video passed 20 million views. National news outlets covered the story around the clock. The image of the sawed chair legs went viral on its own and became a symbol of premeditated institutional racism. People shared it with one word: Wentworth. Headlines ran across every major outlet. CIA veteran turned professor, assaulted, soaked, sabotaged, all on day 1. University tried to fire the victim. 25 years of silent discrimination exposed at Wentworth. Olivia did one interview. Just one. She sat in a chair across from a national reporter. Short sleeves, tattoo visible, voice calm and steady as it had always been. "This is not about one associate dean with a bias problem," she said. In 18 years, 11 professors of color walked out of Wentworth. 11. The institution watched it happen and did nothing. That is not a personnel issue. That is a policy failure. 3 civil rights organizations offered pro bono legal representation within 48 hours. 2 of the university's largest donors publicly withdrew their annual pledges until meaningful and verifiable accountability was demonstrated. The Board of Trustees called an emergency session. An accreditation review was formally threatened by the regional accrediting body. Wentworth University was no longer a school with a diversity problem. It was a national symbol of everything wrong with how American institutions handle race. The consequences came down fast, and they came down hard. Brad Anderson was formally terminated by a unanimous vote of the Board of Trustees. His tenured position, which he had held for over 2 decades, was revoked. This was a rare and severe action that required a full board vote. It passed without a single objection. The state licensing board opened an immediate review of his professional credentials and ultimately revoked them entirely. But it got worse for Brad. During the investigation, a text message was discovered on Brad's phone from Tyler Davis, sent the night before the afternoon lecture. It read, "Got the chair ready for tomorrow, LOL." Brad had seen it. Brad had read it. Brad had done nothing to stop it. He had known about the chair sabotage in advance and had allowed it to happen. Brad Anderson was personally named in a criminal complaint for failure to report an accessory to premeditated harassment. The man who had spent 25 years destroying other people's careers now had a criminal record of his own. Tyler Davis pleaded no contest to the assault charges. He was sentenced to 200 hours of community service, 2 years of supervised probation, mandatory anger management counseling, a restraining order barring him from Wentworth campus, and a permanent criminal record that would follow him for the rest of his life. His law school acceptance, already rescinded, was now a footnote in a story he could never escape. Cody Moore's expulsion was upheld on appeal. His footage of the incidents was entered as key evidence in both the criminal case and the civil proceedings. Olivia Owens filed a civil lawsuit against Wentworth University. Not for the assault, not for the water, not for the chair. She sued for Brad Anderson's 18-year pattern of racial discrimination that the administration had known about and failed to address. The university settled. The terms were made public at Olivia's request. Mandatory anti-discrimination and implicit bias training for all faculty, staff, and administrators, conducted annually. An independent external review of all hiring, retention, and tenure practices for faculty of color over the past 2 decades. The creation of a permanent Diversity and Equity Oversight Committee with community, student, and faculty representation. A formal public apology issued by the Board of Trustees and published in 3 national newspapers. And a financial settlement, the amount of which was undisclosed. Olivia donated every dollar of that settlement to a new scholarship fund for first-generation college students at Wentworth University. She named it the Lawson Owens Scholarship, after herself, and after the man who came before her. The man who did not have a CIA tattoo to save him. The man who was simply a brilliant professor who happened to be black, and who lost everything he had worked for because one man decided he did not belong. Gregory Lawson cried when he heard the name. 1 year later, Olivia Owens sat in a different office. Corner room, 2 windows, a view of the quad, sunlight in the afternoon. She was on the tenure track. Her American history lecture was the most enrolled course in arts and sciences. There was a wait list, 3 pages long. Sophie Williams declared a history major. Her senior thesis, Institutional Silence, How Universities Enable Discrimination Through Inaction. Olivia was her advisor. Dr. Gregory Lawson returned to academia, visiting professor at Wentworth, in the same department Brad Anderson once controlled. His first lecture was standing room only. He sent Olivia a handwritten note. "You made the room safe again. I spent 3 years believing that was impossible. Thank you." Tyler Davis completed his community service at a nonprofit in Hartford. His court-ordered essay said he did not understand the weight of what he had done until he spent 6 months listening to people whose stories he had never bothered to hear. Whether that was genuine or performance is something only Tyler knows. On the last day of the spring semester, Olivia sat alone in her office. Late afternoon, golden light through the windows, a stack of final papers on her desk. She rolled up her left sleeve and looked at the tattoo. The eagle, the codes, the seal. For the first time in this entire story, she smiled at it. Not with pride for what it had been, but with peace for what it had become. It was no longer a secret. It was just part of who she was. Her phone buzzed on the desk, the unsaved number. "Proud of you, Ghost." She looked at the message for a long time. She did not delete it. She picked up her bag, turned off the lamp, walked out into the late afternoon sun. Students crossed the quad around her. The trees were green. The air smelled like cut grass and summer. Behind her, the office door stood closed. An engraved nameplate read, Professor Olivia Owens, Ph.D., Department of History. Below it, a small sticky note in a student's handwriting. Best class I have ever taken. Thank you. The hallway was quiet. The sun was setting. And somewhere in that building, the light in her office stayed on a little longer than usual. So let me ask you directly. If you were sitting in that lecture hall on day 1, watching a professor get insulted, soaked with water, forced to her knees, her chair sabotaged, her clothes ripped off her arm, would you have stood up? Would you have said something? Or would you have looked down at your notebook and waited for someone else to do it? Be honest. Drop your answer in the comments. I want to hear it. And here is the thing I need you to take away from this story. Olivia Owens had a CIA tattoo, a Distinguished Intelligence Medal, and 15 years of classified service to this country. But she should not have needed any of that to be treated with basic human respect. The point of this story is not, be careful who you disrespect because they might be powerful. The point is much simpler than that. Do not disrespect people. Period. Because every single person who walks into a room is carrying a story you know absolutely nothing about. Every single one. If this story hit you somewhere real, smash that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe if you are new here. We tell stories like this every single week. Stories about people who face injustice and come out standing on the other side. And leave me a comment. Tell me, what would you have done in Olivia's shoes? I am reading every single one of them. Peace.
You know what's more dangerous than someone who hates you to your face? Someone who smiles at you and quietly makes sure you never succeed. That's the kind of person you have to watch out for. Not the one who screams, the one who whispers, the one who blocks you so quietly and even you start to believe you're not good enough. And that's the scariest part. When someone destroys you slowly, day by day, meeting by meeting, decision by decision, you stop blaming them, you start blaming yourself. Maybe I'm not smart enough, maybe I don't belong here, maybe they are right about me, but they're not right, they never were. You just couldn't see the hand pushing you down because it was wearing a smile. So if you're in a place right now where nothing you do is ever enough, where the doors keep closing no matter how hard you work, stop and look around, because sometimes the problem isn't you. Sometimes the problem is the person who decided you don't belong here before you even walked in the room. And that's not your failure, that's theirs. Like, share and subscribe. Real stories, real justice, every week. And remember, if someone keeps telling you that you don't belong, maybe they are the one who doesn't belong in the position of power.